Hi, I'm Tim Scheib, husband of one, father of five, realtor, and this is Behind the Sign. Closings. How do we navigate through closings? This is probably one of the most difficult parts of our job as real estate agents. They say we just sell the house and we disappear. Well, that's not true. Figuring out how closings work, how people can navigate through moving, how they can get into their home comfortably or how they can get out of their home comfortably is probably one of the tougher things we can do. It starts off with nobody wants somebody else in the house that they own. So if I'm selling a house and someone's buying it, I don't want them moving in early. Sometimes we can get that done, but I don't want them moving in early because it's my house. What if they ruin it? What if they move in and they decide they don't want to buy it after they move in and then they don't close? And what's going to happen? There's a lot of liability there. Same with someone's like, well, we can close that day, but I need until the next day to get moved out. And I understand all those things. Like, I totally get all those things. But again, someone else closes on the house. They're like, well, it's my house. I don't want someone else in my house. What if I close and then they move out and all of a sudden there's stains all over the carpet that we didn't see underneath all their stuff? Like, there's a lot of scenarios out there. And we as agents can put together paperwork to try and protect people from this and from that. But we can't protect someone from comfort. We can't protect someone from how they feel if they get anxiety because they close and they can't move into their house and someone else is in there. You know, we've had situations where people have driven by the house for like consistently. We had a closing once and they just drove by the house over and over and over again while the people that were trying to move were getting really irritated because someone kept driving by because that person didn't think they were going to be out of the house by closing. And I mean, we have these scenarios that are just absolutely crazy. So here's what I do. When we get an offer on a house, actually during the listing appointment, I tell my clients, if you have to close on the house you're living in to purchase the next house, here's how we try and set it up. We set up that closing for anywhere like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. You pack all your stuff into a moving truck the night before, except for a mattress, or if you go stay at a friend's house or stay at a hotel for that night, you pack everything into that truck. The next morning, the buyers come, they do their walkthrough, and they close. They close at 9 a.m. I bring your check to your closing at 10:30. You close. The minute you close, you take your truck full of stuff to the new house. For me, I'm the agent. Sounds easy. For a seller, start sweating. It's going to be really difficult to get that done. It's one of those things where I don't want to be rushed to get out of the house. I want to leave a nice house. I want to clean it. I want to have it all ready. How do I do all that, right? How do I do all that and how do I put all of my stuff into a truck? And we all know that even though you think you can get everything moved out by a certain time, there's all the little stuff that shows up at the very end. And that's the time-consuming stuff. I tell my clients this also. If you're moving, and if you're one of my clients and I haven't told you, it's because I forgot about it until now. But I tell them, if you're moving across the state, or let's say you're moving just across like two blocks away from the house you're living in, you should pack as if you're moving to a different state. Because I'm here to tell you that if you think that, oh, it's just right over there, I can just get all the big stuff in the truck and then we can just take the little stuff over, boom, boom, boom. That doesn't happen. When you get to the end and there's stuff everywhere, you become overwhelmed, you start to get nervous, and then that's when the freak out moments begin. You want to make sure that you pack everything as if you're moving a long ways away. And here's where you benefit from that too. When you move all your stuff into your new house, it's all organized. When you're trying to load up this and that, you're throwing everything in the truck or in a car and you're moving over there. Now you got a pile of stuff that goes in 5 different rooms. It just doesn't work out that well. Act as if you're moving to a different state. Trust me, you will love that advice. Now, here are some of the things we can do to help with time. We have an early possession and we have a late possession. Those two forms that we have, sometimes they require down payment. If you're doing early possession on a house, you're lucky. Let's start with that. If you're doing early possession on a house, you're going to have to take over the utilities when you move in. You'll have to get an insurance policy that will cover your private property while you're in there, essentially a renter's property. A lot of times your homeowner's policy that you have on the current house you're living in covers you for your personal property as well. But I'm not an insurance professional, so count on them for that. And then we also have like a per diem if it doesn't close. If it doesn't close by a certain date, every day after that costs so much per day up until X day when you have to vacate the property. Those are on that form. That form is there to protect the seller. On late possession, and we have different ways to protect the buyer because they bought the home and now someone else is in their house, and they still need to be out by a certain time. Just understand, like, one of the things that is really hard, we as real estate agents, we're not just salespeople, right? We're also like therapists and counselors, because we got to help people through their emotional states. And in real estate, like, it is one of the most emotional things you can do, going through that process. And people get angry fast and get upset, and they don't understand why someone else is doing something. And being able to put the shoe on the other foot is probably one of the most valuable traits you could have, just in general, especially in that situation. You've got someone who's got 5 kids and they're trying to move out, and it can become very overwhelming very fast. The other person can say, well, you had all this time to plan, why didn't you plan? Well, sometimes you just underestimate, and you have to have a little grace. And where you run into problems, and I've seen this time and time again, where the buyer just hammers away at that seller, like, you got to get out of my house, it's my house, we're supposed to close on this day, and they start getting mad and throwing fits. How do you think that seller is going to treat the house as they're moving out? I would say that you're a lot better off keeping a calm head, understanding where they're at, not getting upset, because you want them to leave your new house in the best shape as possible. And as an agent, we run into this a lot, where tempers start to flare because it's a big purchase. It means a lot to everybody. And it's just so important to keep a cool head in those situations and understand where those sellers are coming from, and you don't pressure them too hard to get out. Same with the sellers. You start pushing buttons with a buyer and say, no, we're not going to be out, and you're a jerk about it. Well, that buyer can be like, I guess we're just not going to close. We'll just wait. And now you're in a bad spot because you can't get your new place because you got to sell your place, and they're like, no, we're not going to close because you're rude. It is so important just to keep cool heads and understand where people are. Those transitions are very tough. And we can oftentimes set up the move dates at the time of the offer. In our market right now, it's a seller's market. Sellers can pull some strings. If the seller's looking at, they have to sell this house to buy the next one, you can negotiate right in the very beginning. Say, we'll accept your offer, because right now most of them are multiple offers. We'll accept your offer as long as we can have 1 day to move out. A lot of times buyers are so darn happy to get their offer accepted. They're like, deal, we'll do it. And that could be the best way to do it. You set that expectation up front. So closing and possession is a very difficult thing to get through. It just takes some patience, it takes cool heads, and it takes some cooperation, because obviously you can't get anything if you don't communicate well, if you're not nice to one another, and you don't cooperate with each other. So keep a cool head. Moving can be difficult. Understand that up front. Like to set that expectation that it can be difficult. At the end of the day, just be good to one another, understand one another, and it should all work out the way it should work out. We'll talk to you soon.